Hey, thanks for watching 4 Color Commentary. I'm Mark Allen, and this is another edition of Ad Infinitum. And for this edition of Ad Infinitum, we have ROM Spaceknight number 6. One of the things I noticed about this was that the ROM Spaceknight, for a long time, they started with Spaceknight in the title, and then for a long time it was just ROM. And then later on, they put the Spaceknight there again. Nothing really big or important, just an oddity that I recognize only recently as I've been reading through the series again. But anyway, we start off with one of these great ads. Now, these ads, in a sense, were for kids reading comics, were just kind of a cornucopia and really almost like a treasure map of just amazing things that you think would be cool if you got in the mail as a kid. I don't remember sending off for very many of them, but there were some that really caught my attention, like the Moneymaker. That was one that I was always curious about. The Venus flytrap. I actually never had a Venus flytrap, though I did have sea monkeys. But there was just various ones. Some that were just kind of odd, like the skin head, the bald head wig. I can't really think of any friends that wanted one of those whenever we were growing up and looking at comics. But I'm sure there was someone out there. Bubble Yum. Bubble Yum, I loved this stuff when I was a kid. I remember when Bubble Yum got started, and just great stuff. And just really enjoyed that. Always liked Bubble Yum. We had just various ads here. The self-defense. There were so many. I've talked about it before. There's so many. Build bigger muscles or learn how to fight. Ads in comic books. I guess that was because comic fans weren't maybe they weren't the toughest around, or they weren't perceived to be the toughest people around. Because on the same page, of course, you got self-defense, and then you have an Atlas body in 7 days. Of course, anyone can have an Atlas body in 7 days, sure. And then, but then you got the Camp Cook kit. From Whoppers. Oh man, that's my favorite candy to cheat on. I'm a diabetic, by the way, type 2, thankfully, not type 1. But when I cheat, that's what I cheat with that candy right there. That is a great stuff. This was evident. I mean, this was also, by the way, just a great issue of ROM. I loved issue number 4, where they put a human in the Firefall armor, and he fought ROM's. Great stuff. Now, here's a Star Trek figures. These were figures done from the very first, well, from Star Trek the Motion Picture. Good friend of mine growing up, Jason, he had some of these Star Trek figures. The thing about it was to this day, Star Trek the Motion Picture is one of my favorite movies to put in if I want to take a really good nap. Just a great snooze fest. There's just nothing happened in that movie. My goodness, it was, and I think of the poor Star Trek fans who were, who'd waited for Star Trek to come to the big screen, and then boom, snooze fest. But anyway, these superhero Presto Magics dry transfer games. I had one of these. I vaguely remember having the Hulk one, and I don't even remember the point of the game. It was more of just put figures on there, and that's at least what I did with it. But I vaguely remember that, and I remember having a lot of fun with it. It came in these various cereals, and anyway, neat stuff there. Of course, part of the fun of comics was the ads. Sometimes. Hubba Bubba. Now, not only was there Bubble Yum, there was Hubba Bubba. And these two, I imagine, duked it out on the bubblegum market for quite some time. And, the ads were kind of weird, but, it is what it is. Epic Comics, I don't remember as a kid. I don't remember coming into contact with Epic Comics until probably 13 or 14 years old. And the first one I remember is the John Byrne Silver Surfer story or Galactus story. I gotta admit, I haven't come into no. It was I guess it was John Buscema Silver Surfer story and John Byrne Galactus story. Anyway, I don't remember Epic that much. I haven't even gone back and looked at them, so I don't know much about Epic Comics, believe it or not. Great little ad there with Spider-Man and the Hulk. It's always fun to try to figure out who did the art for some of these. It looks slightly Romita-ish. Maybe Joe Sennett, I'm not sure, but it's kind of interesting to try to figure out, especially the Hostess ads. Always interesting to try to figure those out. I wonder if there's a website out there that tells us who did the art for those. I'll bet there is. This is like one of the few pieces of Gene Colan art that I ever really cared for, but that, that Marvel Comics ad there with Conan the Hulk, Moon Knight, Dracula, Howard the Duck, that was just cool. And this one, I really loved this one as a kid. I would read this every time I'd come across it in a comic book, and I still do. And just what's wrong with this picture, and some really great some great answers. The newsstand owner has an anchovy in his shirt pocket that slid off his pizza at breakfast. All the trains are leaving on schedule, and that may not be wrong, but it's certainly unusual. I mean, things that you wouldn't even know by looking at the picture. The old woman's 1933 perfume, 23 perfume, turns sour in the bottle and smells like egg salad floating in gasohol. Now, that's gasohol's a term that anyone under 20 probably wouldn't, maybe under 30 wouldn't recognize, but I do remember it. And then 4, this was the great one. This was the kicker here. The man in the suit bought every copy of Marvel Comics on the stand. There's nothing wrong with that, but the old woman was there first. So great stuff, great ads. Love it. And then, of course, there is the nearly obligatory Hostess fruit pies ads. It was sometimes fruit pies, sometimes cupcakes, sometimes Twinkies. But I don't know I can't really tell whose art that is. But kind of an entertaining Thor story there going up against the Ricochet monster. And that's all you have. The neat thing you have, not an ad, but a kind of a cool caricature there of Sal Buscema. One of my all-time favorite, and one of the all-time greatest artists. And the radio-controlled Porsche. Who doesn't want a radio-controlled Porsche? I'll take a real one, please. But anyway, just some great ads. And a great old Marvel comic ROM, Spaceknight number 6. And this has been another edition of Ad Infinitum. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.